Okay. Good morning, everybody. We are here to give you an update on the efforts to address the fire in the Santiam Canyon and our recovery efforts. We're going to start off with an update from Sheriff Joe Cast.
Hi, thanks, Mr. Chair. To start with, the most recent numbers I have is the fire has reached 190,000 acres, a little over 190,000 acres in the Beachie Creek fire. There's 545 fire personnel working on the fire right now. Our evacuation levels have not changed since yesterday afternoon. The evacuated areas, the closed areas are Detroit, Idana, Brightonbush, Mill City, Gates, and then Highway 22 east of Highway 226. And then the North Fork Road corridor, of course, as well, north of Highway 22. We don't have any change in the number of fatalities. We have 4 deaths related to the fire, and then we still have 1 person that's unaccounted for, and that is, went out in the media release yesterday, Mr. George Attia, and we're still putting teams together to try to locate him or anybody else that may still be up in the area, but that's the only one that we know of at this point that's unaccounted for. If you have or know of somebody that's missing, we have contact information that you can call in and let us know. And then also, if you have property up in the canyon and you want a deputy to drive by and check on that property, we can do that. The property check phone number for Detroit and Idana is 503-798-6823. Between 8 and 5, 7 days a week we're doing that. And we will continue with the enhanced patrols up in that area. We'll be working with the Lynn County Sheriff's Office and a bunch of other law enforcement agencies who've provided resources to continue to put patrol up in that closed area. Additionally, we've got several phone calls recently about FBI phone calls checking on folks that do live in that region. That is actually what is going on. The FBI is checking to try to make sure that we do not lose sight of anybody that may be up there that we didn't get contact with. So the FBI is doing some follow-up phone calls there. I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Sheriff. Can you give an update on Lyons got downgraded? Is that right?
Lyons and Mahama, west of the 226 intersection, is opened up into level 2.
And that means people can go back to their homes if they're still
Yes,
standing.
in
Is that
those
correct?
areas.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know what 226 is, but they may know where Gingerbread House is.
Right there by the gingerbread house at that intersection with the flashing yellow light, for
Right.
those that are up there, yes.
In the
Again, that's
hard road.
west of that intersection. East of that intersection is still closed.
Real quick. Commissioner?
Well, somewhat related, and I won't mind if the sheriff interjected specifics, but I'll start with talking about Highway 22 closure. We had the opportunity to go up there last Wednesday. I think things will stick in my mind for a long time, but it's surely and strictly unsafe. There's a picture right here that happened yesterday, a state patrol car. Just put the brakes on, got that close, but that's what's going on. Trees are still unsafe. We're told 8, and I got a new number. In fact, I got to put on my glasses. I thought it was 8 and 10,000, but it's saying 10 to 80,000 trees need to be secured, removed. A big job. The other thing we saw, and certainly is a health and safety thing, not counting fires themselves that aren't completely out, is rocks falling down in the roadway. If you can think of all that area, especially like Big Cliff Dam to Detroit, the rock wall, they have fencing up over the years to help, but that's got to be replaced, taken back, to take a long time. ODOT's closed up the road completely. I wonder, do you have any new information on 22 itself?
Just that we're working with ODOT, and they do have that section closed where they're working on removing trees and things like that, but we're still working with the community and with ODOT to try to help out any way we can in providing very limited access to some of the areas around there.
So yesterday I was listening on the radio, and I just overheard a gentleman talking, pretty mad at the Marion County Sheriff's Office, sorry, Sheriff, for not letting him get back to meet his wife, who was already in the evacuation area. And I understand his frustration, understand the frustration of so many people, but it's not safe yet. We have to know where people are, and there could be further evacuations as time goes on and weather changes. So I hope people will cooperate and understand we're doing everything we can. It leads me into the next steps of recovery. I so dearly want to get people back on their properties. And I'll just make you that pledge. We'll do everything we can. I think the board agrees with me. They often don't, but we want to get people back and get roadblocks out of the way, be pragmatic and common sense, and I don't care if they're on tents or mobile homes. I'm premature in saying this, but perhaps people can get ready. We want to get them back. Did talk to the governor, or at least told her my plans last Saturday, and I think we'll get agreement. We're going to do everything we can as soon as possible to get people back, and that's our pledge.
Over the last week, we have opened an emergency shelter at the Fairgrounds. Over 1,000 people checked into the Fairgrounds between Tuesday morning, starting at about 2 a.m. Until on Sunday. We handed over operations of the Fairgrounds shelter to the American Red Cross. We also sheltered over 1,400 animals and livestock on the Fairgrounds. But a number of those animals are returning to their homes, so that's very good news. We're down to just over 700 animals now, which is about half the number that we had at the height of the crisis. That includes 214 horses and 240 large livestock. Yesterday, President Trump approved a major disaster declaration for many counties in Oregon, including Marion County. What this means is that there's now federal funding available to support our recovery efforts and disaster relief. If you or someone you know has been affected by the fire in the Santiam Canyon, you can register online today, and that's disasterassistance.gov, and you can also call 1-800-621-3362, and that funding will include temporary housing and home repairs and low-cost loans to cover uninsured property and losses. That's something that we're going to be working with FEMA to make available to our community.
Before you go, I wasn't done, it doesn't matter. If I could, just a couple more thoughts. And it's kind of personal this time. Last week, I kind of got choked up. It surprised me. In fact, frankly, embarrassed about it, but thoughts started going back to family and friends doing things and got my attention, just didn't have time to recover. I still have those thoughts, and one of the things I want to do is acknowledge, and I just know this is going to come out, so many private people, certainly the fire department's working their tails off, but private people with their own machinery, the farmers in the areas, I'll call out Lule's and Etzel's and Heiberger's in our area, put out fires that I know saved Sublimity, Staten, and perhaps beyond. So I'm sure that'll come out. I want to acknowledge the work the private people have done. And then, this is where it really gets personal. So I told you I had a little trouble last week. I got a call later that evening from an old friend. I wasn't going to say his name, but I think the world needs to know good people. Hope I don't do that again. But Walt Beglaw called me up, former district attorney, and he had watched me on some television, I guess. And he frankly said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Oh, Walt, I'm embarrassed, but yeah, I'm fine." And then he went on. I said, "Well, how are you? Where are you?" And he's actually told me, after worrying about me, he was actually in Washington, evacuated. His house on the McKenzie just burned down. I thought, why would you possibly care about me? But so that brings me up to where, if people are having trouble, we do have some resources in the county I want to make public. We have a Marion County Psychiatric Crisis Hotline. The number is 503-585-4949. I'll just say it once more, 503-585-4949. And a Marion County Youth and Family Crisis Hotline, and that number is 503-576-4673. So my point, and I hope it's important, start looking around at people and make sure you're taking care of them. You find out who your friends are.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to make the point that we still have a crisis in the middle of a crisis in the middle of a crisis. And if you think about it, when I spoke to the governor last week, it's almost like COVID was a warm-up for getting ready for this. But we think about COVID, and I personally know, myself and other businesses that have been struggling during COVID, and then to have this happen. And we've got these other crises within it still. we want to acknowledge the sheriff and his staff and how they've been, working so hard, number one, to get people out. I was there at 12:30 at night when his people were going through the town of Detroit with their sirens on, knocking on doors and getting people out, and I'll never forget that. But since then, they've been working hard. If you think about it, both the marinas were destroyed in Detroit. The buildings were destroyed, but they had over 200 boats still sitting in the water. We did get, last Friday, we got Army Corps to slow down the water a little bit to be able to buy more time. This week, his deputies were able to move the boats from the shallow marina, Detroit Lake Marina, over to Canes Marina. They're still sitting there. They've obviously been able to recover many trailers that were in town and move those trailers over to Mongold to stage to get ready to get those boats out. So that's something. Detroit lost its water system in the fire, their pumps, their filters. So they're working on trying to recover that, and I'm sure our emergency management is helping. This disaster will help collect them. And I think it's important to note that Marion County has the most incorporated cities of any county in Oregon. We have 20 incorporated cities, and if you take Salem and Kaiser and Woodburn, those big cities out, you've got all these little cities up in the canyon and in different places that really need our help and continue to recovery. Cash donations can be made for the recovery to the Santiam Hospital. Santiam Hospital has set up a Santiam Wildfire Relief Fund. All these links can be found on our website. The Red Cross is putting people up in hotels and reimbursing the fairgrounds and those types of things. So Red Cross can take cash donations to help with the relief. And the United Way here in the local valley has set up a relief fund and is taking donations as well as cash. So those are three entities that people can donate to help. One of our concerns, and one of the things that I'm working on, we've kind of tried to divide up things, is recovery. And in that recovery, people have been displaced, and one of my concerns is that I have not heard from our clerk what the plan is to make sure people get their ballots for this election, and I'm anxiously waiting to hear what the clerk, Bill Burgess, is planning on doing to make sure people get ballots that are destroyed. They haven't been able to go back to their house. And so we want to see that. That's an immediate need that we have that we're asking him for. And then the other thing is we're having a meeting tomorrow with, I believe, Lynn County. We're still struggling to get this meeting put together with Lynn County, our Public Works Planning Department, the Council of Governments, to talk about what are some of the obstacles. They've already been working on this. What are the obstacles to rebuild? And obviously we have to go in and clean up. But if you think about some of the homes that were destroyed up there, they were built in the 40s or 50s, and the code at that time allowed them to do things that code does not allow to do today. So we're going to be asking for some relief from building codes. We're already talking with the home builders and what that looks like. They have some experience in Grant County, rebuilding Grant County. So we'll be continuing to do that, and as we move forward, asking for help from the state to relieve some of those codes and allow people to get in. And as Commissioner Brentano said, there's going to be a lot of people, and I spoke with, for example, some friends of mine that lost their place right on the lake. They said, hey, we started in a motorhome on our block property. We could go back to a motorhome while we rebuild. So we'll need to really, and I'm going to use your term, we need to be really liberal on how we approach people and allowing them to go back and return to their homes, and let them mourn and go through that whole process of loss and recovery.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sergeant Landers, with that, we'd be happy to take any questions.
So as we take questions, I'll just ask that you remain where you are. Ask the question out loud. I'll repeat it, so that way it can be heard a little bit easier for the people watching online. And we'll start here. Who has questions?
I just want to know a couple of things.
Can you introduce yourself first, please?
Harlan from Point TV in Fort Worth.
Okay.
About people get together, the extent of the damage to Detroit as well.
So I'll summarize. You said you had quite a bit there. So really, he's looking for a extent of the scope of damages up through the Santiam Canyon as well as Detroit specifically.
Can we have Brian answer the first question? Brian is our Public Works Director. Brian
Yep,
Nichols.
I'll introduce myself since I haven't introduced myself yet. Brian Nicholas, I'm the Marion County Public Works Director. And since in Marion County Emergency Management resides in Public Works, I'm also the county's Public Emergency Management Director. And that emergency management organization extends through all the departments in the county. To answer the question about utilities, I think there's only one word, and that's extensive. Extensive loss. I do believe, the Fire Incident Command does have a utilities unit, so every utility that's located up there has a presence in the Incident Command, so they have an awareness of the extent of damage on the ground. And it really is extensive. I think every utility, other than just some pockets here and there, the rebuilding will be extensive before those utility services are restored.
What is it, sewer, power lines, all of the above?
Wish it was sewer.
Yeah, I think any place where the fire came through, overhead power is pretty much down, and so is landline communications. Cellular is hit and miss. Some sites have been hit, and so cellular is hit and miss coverage. But actually, Verizon and other providers have some service maps available on their websites where people can go to see in real time what that degraded coverage looks like. So that's a resource people can turn to. Some of the cities have lost their water systems, like Detroit and Gates. Lions sounds like they came through it okay. They've got a system that's still functioning, but with some damage. So it really is hit or miss. I think utilities will be putting out information in the next couple of days about what kind of timelines they're looking at for recovery.
Brian, there'll be impacts to natural gas too. We've been getting some messages on, and something that we have to work on to get restored.
Yep. And I would say, I think utilities really are still in the assessment period, so they want to put out good information that people can rely on.
One more on number of hazard trees that Dr. mentioned, your number of hazard trees.
Okay. So he's asking for a clarification on the number of potential hazard trees to be removed.
Go ahead.
We were told from the command that there's between 10,000 and 80,000 trees up that Highway 22 corridor to the top of the pass, up to the Highway 20, that have to be removed to make the roadways safe and to make the side roads safe as well.
And this patrol vehicle here was hit by a tree that fell in the road. So that's the importance of removing those trees.
So I'll answer your other question about Detroit. Being able to go up there last Wednesday to on a convoy, Army Corps had somebody stuck in their dam for 30 hours, so the sheriff organized with ODOT and utility companies that had hooks, et cetera, that we were able to go up there. And the things that you've probably seen the photos, if you go into Detroit, there was a gas station on the left, totally gone. The motel on the left, it's all gone. It's just like somebody came in and dropped a bomb. You go into Cedars. Anybody here ever been to Cedars? Well, it's quite the historic place. Totally gone. The sign's still standing. The only thing on Main Street on that side is the post office. Why? Who knows? But there's extensive damage. I think probably the last number I saw was over 250 homes that are totally gone. I think there's approximately 400 up there. Our community services department is, and our assessors looking at all those information. But I will say this, you can see on Facebook right now, you can see hashtag Detroit Strong. There are people planning meetings saying we're going to rebuild, we need to get up there. It's a community, not only just Detroit, but that whole canyon. And you talked about sewer. Well, this office has been working on trying to get a sewer project in that canyon for the last 4 or 5 years. This would be a great time. We're expediting, hopefully, the engineering on that as we're talking about this today. It would have been nice if there was a sewer system up there. And I think through this recovery, we need to rebuild that whole canyon in a way that it gives infrastructure that will be long-lasting. That's part of the whole process as we move forward, working with the feds and ourselves and the state to make some of those things happen. But the people are resistant. They are what's the word I want to say?
Resilient.
Resilient, exactly. And they will come back stronger than ever.
So the question from the Statesman Journal is if there's going to be a process or policy change around permitting or the ability to expedite permitting to help with rebuild.
Yeah, I spoke with Mike Ergman, who's in charge of Marion Polk Home Builders, and the State Home Building Association. I think it's Long, Mike Long. I can't remember his first name, but Long used to be with the state Building Codes Division, and now he's running the state. You could do some research on Grant County when they had the fire that went through. And the commissioners can take some unilateral action policies. Those are being developed for us right now that allow people to build their homes back to a certain code. And so those are things that we're doing research on right now that would potentially, if the state doesn't give us relief, that we can take that will help. Not as far as we could get with the state, but yes, there are things that we can do as a board that will allow people to build back to, like, for example, the codes that were in place in 2000. Because if you built your home in 1940, ask this guy, we can't find those codes, right? Those are gone. But there are some things we can do that will help us get there. Does that answer your question? Yes, there will be, but I'm not, I can't tell you what those are currently.
I can
I
tell you
think tomorrow we'll come out of that meeting with more details.
just a couple. I'm worried about debris. We'd love to have a place up there where we could take it. And if that needs to be set up, there may have to be some concessions made to let it go there and just stored. I mean, if you cut down the transportation, our alternative right now would be bring it clear through Salem or to Corvallis. There's got to be something better than that. So that's one we're going to be looking for. And then we'll try to be, again, my word, liberal, trying to deal with septic tanks. Those are state rules and DEQ, but I'm just hoping there can be some type of reasonable concessions made to help people out. That's all those kind of angles is what we'll be looking for to make it better.
We also know a number of properties up there were grandfathered in or were maybe not on the right lot line or non-conforming to the use. And so it's going to be really important for us to work with the state to make sure that those people can rebuild as well.
And then we've talked about in our own staff building up permits, inspectors, and be ready for the demand that hopefully and surely will come.
Do you have any other questions? So the question was asking for clarification about what the downgrade from level 3 to level 2 in Mahama and Lyons means for people.
Yes, in those level 2 areas, yes, people can go back and stay there, but they just need to be packed up and ready to go at a moment's notice if that goes back to level 3 for some reason. Past 226, that highway's still closed, past that intersection. I would mention too, just while I have a moment, up in that area, one of the main communication areas is Halls Ridge Radio Tower area. That impacts a lot of emergency services up there, and that tower is no longer there. It's no longer standing. That area burnt down. And so they're putting in a mobile communications tower up there to make sure that we get some communications back up in there. And then the other thing I want to mention is the patrol car that you're looking at the picture of over here. That car was in motion when that tree fell on it. That's why the roads are so dangerous. It wasn't parked somewhere where a tree fell on it. That car was actually driving on Highway 22 when the tree fell on it. So I just want to clarify that.
So the question was, with the damage done to the Detroit water system, are there interim measures that can be taken to help with that?
So Brian can answer this in more detail. If you think about the water crisis we had here in Salem, but 2018, 200,000 people impacted. I'm sure that we will be able to handle 200 people if there is that many people to go back with their homes, with some of the emergency equipment that we have for water supply. I'm one of those fortunate homes that's standing in a row of 9 homes up there on cluster, and but there is no water. So, you know, I was if I'm even allowed to go back, who knows? The smoke and some of those houses, asbestos, you know, this is DEQ stuff that we got to talk about. But Brian, you want to talk about what you guys have available that would handle the water?
Right. I do anticipate it'll be something that starts out rudimentary and grows over time. We typically work directly with the city leadership to figure out what type of temporary solutions they think can work best for them. But I would expect a mobile water delivery service of some sort to, once people are allowed to return to the area and stay in their homes. There's a process that cities need to go through to make sure that homes are truly safe to dwell. And so that needs to be completed first, and then, but once that order is provided and people can return to their homes, there'll be some support services. But yeah, I think it'll start out rudimentary with some sort of water service, delivery service, or something like that until systems can be constructed and put in place. And this really is an opportunity to think larger about services throughout the canyon.
Commissioner Cameron also mentioned the extensive damage up there in Detroit. So combined with the danger of the trees and the rock slides and the number of dwellings that are even habitable in Detroit, it could be a while before people are able to live there, move back in.
I'll get a tank.
Are there more questions?
So the question is there going to be a resource where people can go to find the status of certain structures?
There will be at some point as we get that put together. We'll get that information out through our PIO, and the county will as well, as soon as we get that information available. Right now, it depends on the area, whether we've been able to get in there and get a good look at everything yet.
I think that's one of the differences I heard on a call we were on yesterday. Lincoln County's telling FEMA, hey, come on in, we're ready to go. We can't get in. We can't assess all the damages yet because there's too much active fire, there's too much active trees falling down, et cetera. So it's going to be a little bit longer because we obviously had the extensive damage here.
And Sheriff, you do have that number that people can call if they want a deputy to check on their house in Detroit. Is that right?
Yes. Again, the number to have someone check on your house in Detroit and Idana is 503-798-6823. And that's 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Our deputies will do that for you.
But Bill, specifically the Forest Service ranger or station there right across from the state park is still standing when we drove by there Wednesday. The State Forest building at North Fork Road is gone.
So at this point, if we don't have any other further questions, I think we can.
Commissioners, if you don't mind, there is an important public safety message I'd like to deliver, and this is the perfect forum to do it because virtually every residential property up the canyon has a septic system that served it. We need to be getting the word out to folks that as they return, a structurally compromised septic tank can be extremely dangerous. It's like having a trap door that sometimes you can't even see. So we'll be delivering that message out to folks that as they start to access their site, and especially during early access when folks don't have all the information they might need, be very, very cognizant of the potential presence of septic sites out on residential and commercial properties. That, like I said, that message will be going out, but I thought this would be the perfect forum to start that message because it really is a significant danger for folks that are unaware.
Can you describe that in more
Yeah, just to be
detail?
clear, it's collapse that you would be worried about there.
Well, for well over a decade now, I don't think anybody's put in a concrete septic tank. They're all plastic, and so ground fire moves in. It compromises the plastic, but the ground can still bridge over the tank sometimes. So it looks like it's firm until you step on it. And like I said, it's just like having a trap door in your yard to a tank you don't want to enter. Right.
Thank you, bro.
Yep.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.